Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What'd you think? We could hear you guys. We could hear the reaction. What about that last scene? Right? Didn't see it coming, did you? Okay, before we get started, I want to welcome our Paley corporate members who've joined us via a live stream. There's a live stream going on tonight. Beyond the Gates is developed and produced by the CBS Studios NAACP venture in partnership with P&G Studios, which is a division of Procter & Gamble. The CBS Studios NAACP production venture was established to help elevate a diverse range of voices, as well as increase the visibility of Black artists on broadcast and streaming platforms in an ever-evolving media landscape. So welcome to our live stream viewers. Thank you very much. And now let us get started. You ready to meet the cast and the creator? Let's bring out Daphnee Duplaix, Dr. Nicole Dupree Richardson. Coming up next, give it up for Tamara Tunie. Thank you, guys. And last but not least, the executive producer, Sheila Ducksworth. Okay, so did you hear the excitement, the reaction? People are feeling it. People are feeling it. So we have an hour to spend together, but there's a lot to get through, and so I'm just going to jump right into it and begin with you, Sheila, because you and I were talking this morning. We talked a little bit backstage, but I want the audience to understand how this moment happened, how you decided what you were thinking about many, many years ago that is finally coming to fruition next week.
Yes, I have to say it's been a long journey. I've been watching soap since I was 10 years old, and even at the age of 10, watching General Hospital. I would wait for a lot of General Hospital fans I know out there. And I would wait for Bianca Ferguson to come on. And if you guys know Bianca Ferguson, she was virtually the only woman of color on the show. And I'd wait for that to come on. And I've always thought, you know, there needs to be more. It needs to be more inclusive. These stories are so relatable. They're so universal. They're for everybody. And I wanted to see stories that reflected my life, my culture, look like people that look like me. And so that was that part of the journey. And then when Generations came on, if you guys know Generations, that was years later, when I was in college, that came on, and it was just like such a turning point because that really did incorporate so much more. It was a little bit less, it was a half hour, it didn't have the hour, but you got the family, which I thought was just so incredible and glued to it. And when it went off TV, I didn't know what to do. And so that really, I mean, at that point, I was living in the city, working in the city, and I had a roommate, and I think my roommate is actually here. Is Julie Harkins here? Oh, okay. Then Julie knows. Julie and I would race home from work, make dinner, and that was it. That's all we did. And so when it went off, we didn't know what to do. And so, long story short, I just said, okay, what am I going to do? Where do I want to go? I know what I want to do. I want to make TV, and I want to make a soap opera. I moved to Los Angeles, and years later, I had the chance to meet Vivica Fox. We did a project together. We became friends. And I said to Vivica, this was 20 years ago, I said, I want to make a soap. And she said, if you want to make a soap, you need to meet Michelle Valjean. Yes. And if you know Michelle and you know her work, you would know her as having been a veteran of soap operas and writing for more than 3 decades, multi-award winning with WGA awards and with Emmys and you name it. She's incredible, and she was the only Black writer on Generations, and so she hooked us both up together, and we just said one day we're gonna make a soap, and that was early in 2000, so over 20 years ago. Over 20 years. I don't want to take up too much time, so I'll space it out unless you want me to go into it.
No, this is great because it actually brings me to the moment that I want to ask you about when you were thinking about these characters and you were thinking about the cast.
Yeah.
Why did you want, and Michelle, why did you want Tamara and Daphne.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so
Let me hear it.
this is good because there are so many elements to making the soap, as I'm sure you all saw on the screen. But casting is so important, as I'm sure that everyone knows. You want to fall in love with these characters and the people who embody them and all of that. And so truly, number one, the casting director for this is Kim Coleman, who is absolutely amazing. And I stalked her for about a year before we got the green light because I knew that was the one casting director that I wanted to do this. But Tamara was easy. We had decided collectively that Tamara was easy in thought. Getting Tamara, there are two different things about Tamara being easy. But yes, getting the thought of who would play the matriarch was simple. It was across the board. It was network, studio, producers, everybody, we want Tamara Tunie. So there was no question about it, but then landing Tamara as the clock was ticking, that was something different because as we all know, Tamara is Tamara and is in demand, has done, I'm not gonna tick down the whole resume, but I will say stage, screen, singing, the whole thing, daytime, nighttime, Broadway, she's incredible, and she was the only person that we wanted. So we didn't go out to anybody else. We were like, we put all of our chips in the bag and said, we're gonna go out to her, and we actually wrote her a letter. We put together a little package and tried to woo her to the best of our abilities. And the day that we got her, I was walking in the aisle, the packaged good aisles in Chamblee, in Chamblee, Georgia, at Whole Foods, and they told me that Tamara's closed. Tamara's closed, and I called Tamara, and it was just like, everything was just like the bells were ringing, and it was just amazing. So I'm going to toss it over to Tamara because Tamara has her own thought. Yes.
Yeah, because as Sheila says, you've starred in everything. You've been in television, you're practically since you got out of college, and you've been on the stage, the old Vic. There's what haven't you done, but what made you, and why did you want to return to this format specifically?
Because Sheila and Michelle wooed me.
We did. We had
Who doesn't want to be wooed? The historic nature of this, when I got the call, and my agent Sarah Fargo's here, who called me and said, you have this offer to play the matriarch of this family in this new soap opera. And when I read the material, and I said, well, let me sleep on it, and I woke up the next morning and I said, this is going to be one of the most historical moments in television history. And I think I need to be a part of it. But I'm also a director, and I've had several musicals that I'm developing that I've been working on over the past few years in different stages of development. And I had dates on my calendar when I was doing a reading presentation of this and a workshop of that and a production of this. And so I said to my agent and manager, I said, I want to talk to them about it. I want to hear more. I said, and also I want to share with them that, I have these projects on my plate that I just can't walk away from. And so we got on a Zoom with Michelle, Sheila and I, and they shared with me, more of the story, where it was going, more about my character. And I shared with them the projects that I had on my plate and asked if it was even a possibility to work around those projects. And they said, absolutely. And I said, well, I know you might need to talk to a couple other people, like CBS and Procter & Gamble. And they were like, it's going and so I said, great. I said, because, my entire career has been multitasking. And the reason that I was on As the World Turns for 15 years, thank you. The reason I was on the show for 15 years was because the producer, the executive producer and writer afforded us as actors the opportunity to always work in the other genres. And so that was my MO. And, my thing was, I said to Sheila and Michelle, I said, well, where there's a will, there's a way,
Right.
And she ran with that. And
I did for a couple of weeks. Everything was, where there's a will, there's a way. That was all I was saying for a couple of weeks.
yeah, and so the next day they came back and said, yeah, we can make it work out. So let's get down to business. And so when we closed the deal, literally, my agent called me and said, we're closed. And I was like, fantastic. And I hung up the phone, and the phone rang, and it was Sheila. Squealing.
That's it.
In the aisle at the grocery store.
That's it. I should.
Yeah, so it was great, and it was on from there. But this is truly a moment in television history. This is the first time. This is a glass ceiling breaking television show. We have not seen this kind of story about a black family, shown on television. And also the cast is multicultural. The black family is the center of the story, but everyone is represented in our show, and it represents the world as we know it. Right. The world in which we live, the world that looks like this room tonight. You know what I mean? So it's very, very exciting to be a part of it, and I'm so pleased and proud. And you can see I'm having a good time up there. I'm having a good time, and I appreciate all y'all catching my subtext. Catching my subtext. I'm like, yes.
So, Daphne, you also, it's coincidentally sort of a monumental moment here for you as well, because you starred in the last soap opera to launch, which was in 1999, Passions.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think back to that show, which was groundbreaking in and of itself, and what makes this one all the more monumental, all the more exciting, what has changed just in the world of soaps since you first started?
Well, for this one, it is rooted in reality, right? Where Passions fans know. And, like we said, to have a black family at the helm, and that's never been done, it's absolutely amazing. For our children, to see themselves, like we've all said, we saw one, maybe two, right? You're gonna see an entire family, an entire community, and you're gonna see this black excellence. And that allows, young people coming up to dream big. Mm-hmm. And that's amazing in itself. So I am so proud to be a part of this project.
And you and I were talking earlier this morning after you were on CBS Mornings that, and this flows with the story that Sheila and Tamara were talking about. I said, how did you get cast? And you said, well, we were all waiting for Tamara to sign. And I knew, and I wanted to be a part of it, right? Tell the audience how excited you were to be a part of it.
So the two versions are, I found out after what was actually happening. I was on hold for 3 weeks, so I felt like I was being tortured. So every Friday came around, I'm like, really? Nothing yet? Not even a word? Not even like your top 5? Nothing. Following week, same. I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying right now. And then, I spoke to Sheila after I got cast, and she told me obviously they had to wait for this amazing matriarch. And I feel like I've been blessed by the gods to work with this woman, and Clifton Davis, and Carla Mosley, and Sheila Ducksworth. So once I got the call 3 weeks later, I was over the moon, I was crying, and it's just been fantastic ever since.
Well, the irony, I will say, though, is that we knew that she was this character from the moment that she read. Literally, I don't even think that we went through the entire list. It was like Daphne came on and we said that her name was Crystal at the time, it wasn't Nicole. But when she came on and did the read, we said, we found our person, we were done. So truthfully, she was the first person, but we had to wait because we did need to get our matriarch first. So
that is so fascinating.
Yeah.
And Tamara, did I read correctly that you also helped land the legend, the icon, Clifton Davis, to the role of Vernon?
Yes, I did. No, I didn't. The irony is, and this is why I believe in divine order. In July, I was gala co-chair for the International Black Theater Festival in Winston-Salem. And my my co-chair was Clifton Davis. And, you know, I had never met Clifton in my life. And, of course, I was a big fan of his. You know, I was a kid watching him and Melba Moore on their variety show, you know, in the summer. And so, you know, we met and we co-chaired, and we had to spend a good, you know, 5 days together doing lunches and meeting people who support the festival and, you know, doing the co-chair thing. And we just hit it off. I mean, we just hit it off immediately. We laughed the whole week. We had such a great time with each other. And one morning at breakfast, he picked up his phone and looked at it, and he had a text from his agent about an inquiry about would he be interested in this new soap opera that they're going to be shooting in Atlanta. And I said, oh, well, what do you think? He's like, I don't know. You know, he put his phone down, right? So cut to 2 months later, you know, I'm in Pittsburgh minding my own business doing a play there, and I get the call about this. And as soon as I said, okay, let's have this conversation, and we talked, and we said we can, you know, start moving forward with this process, I text Clifton. I was like, hey, so what's going on with this soap opera? You know, did you pass? Are they still talking to you? What's going on? He says, we're still in conversation. I said, okay. I said, because I'm just got an offer. I said, and if I close this deal, you know, I'm going to say, you know, we know each other. I said, so I'll keep you posted and you keep me posted. He said, okay. So we closed the deal. Sheila called me. We're happy. We're doing the happy dance. And then I'm like, and by the way, Sheila, you know,
that's right.
I just happen to know Clifton Davis because we spent this time.
I was at the frozen food section.
By that
time, that's exactly what happened.
You know, and I was like, so I don't know if you all are still talking to him. But I just wanted to say, you know, we have chemistry and we're good friends, you know. And she was like, oh, well, that's good to know. Blah, 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 you know. And then a couple of weeks later, he was cast.
That was it.
It was great.
That was
it was great.
It really is about chemistry, too.
Yeah.
And this family, is it not so believable? And you would think that, I mean, truly, we've known each other for so long. And truly, we started, Tamara just came on board in September. We finished casting in October. And so it's really only been not even 6 months.
And started filming the beginning of November.
Started filming
November 1st.
Beginning of November. Actually, we started filming October 31st, I want to say. We did some pre-shoots,
right.
October 31st and November and the 1st.
That's
and
right.
then our official date was November 4th.
Right.
But it was all kind of mushed in, and we were all just trying to get our feet, you know, wet in the soap opera space, because as we were saying, the soap opera, one had not been launched in over a quarter of a century.
Right.
So how do you start up something that's this big? And a soap is, I mean, we were really planting a huge seed. And I have to say, it was like all the things. If you can imagine shooting 200 plus original episodes an hour every day, Monday through Friday, and what that entails, it is a lot. I can't even begin to tell you, like we were talking about it before, the sacrifices, and like everybody, Tamara will tell you how many, or I can tell you how many scenes that Tamara had to do in one day, but she can tell you too. She can tell you better. But I mean, the scenes it's incredible, not only to be memorized, just the words, obviously, but it's like, are we in episode 1, 2, 5,
Because we
7?
shoot out of sequence too.
Everything's out of sequence.
We're shooting out of sequence.
You know, you can be crying in one scene and, you know, best friends in another scene. And I mean, these two are just like two of the very, very best. Every time they're out on the stage and I'm looking at the monitor, I'm just in awe, It's just amazing these are just two out of close to 40 actors that we have. So it is incredible. Just the volume of everything is just, you know, on steroids.
And understand the learning curve. I mean, as Sheila said, there hasn't been a new soap opera, so nobody's been doing daytime work. So it became a crash course in how to create a soap opera, from the camera operators to the boom operators to how to light it to the makeup and hair department, how to do 20 people in a day
in an hour and a half,
and get them out on that
They're
set.
all in one scene, right?
Exactly.
The whole
The same
thing.
scene,
Right.
yes, and all of that. So it was great because we crawled, and then we walked,
Yeah.
and now we're kind of running a bit. We're jogging. Jogging.
We are. I mean, we just finished shooting week 11, so we're 11 weeks into filming, and it is, it's incredible. It's
And
incredible.
that's 50-something episodes.
Yeah.
In the can.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're about
Yeah.
3 months ahead when it comes to shooting. So yes, what we're shooting now is what you'll see in about 3 months. So yeah, 3 months after that.
And it shows on the screen, clearly. I mean, you guys just saw the hard work and devotion, and what they're talking about is, it blows my mind the amount of work that goes into it, but then you see it on television and it's seamless. It's beautifully shot. We were talking earlier this morning about the costume design, the set design, and it all sort of makes me wonder, and I want the audience to understand this, Sheila, that this partnership that you have with P&G Studios, getting them back into daytime for the first time in more than 15 years. And the commitment that Paramount made with the NAACP to get this project off the ground. I want you to talk a little bit about that too, because that is, I was saying this on the red carpet, I'm incredibly proud to work for an organization where, George Cheeks, our CEO, would say, I really think that we can get behind this. And then you've got P&G and the NAACP. What a hat trick.
Yeah, I have to say, yes, George Cheeks, he is truly the architect of all of this. I pitched him the idea of this, and it all started because we were having a conversation before I came on board with CBS Studios, and I let him know that I wanted to do everyday part. I wanted to do daytime TV. And then once he said, that's great, I said, well, actually, I really want to do a soap. And I didn't know what he was going to say when I said I wanted to do a soap. And he said, we've been talking about that. And so that was the reception I got, and that's all I needed to do to pitch the idea and to get the thing, and then take the job and then get the thing going. But truly, it's been a 4.5-year odyssey of, just really all hands on deck to make this happen. And there are 2 people that I'm looking at right now, especially, who were so integral to making this happen. Brian Rubin, who is the CFO of CBS, right here in front, who took time out to come tonight. So thank you. Brian did so much towards making all of this happen. I have to say, I'm just so grateful, and so grateful for the patience, so grateful for the persistence, everything that you did to really bring this to bear. It was a lot, and everybody knows. And I'm saying everybody needs to know. You did a great job, and clearly we're going to go down in history with this because of what you were able to do with making all of these deals happen. And Kimberly Dobereiner is the head of P&G Studios, and can people stand? People need to know who these 2 people are. Brian.
Come on, Brian.
Brian. Yeah. And P&G started because George wanted me to get on the phone with Mark Pritchard. If you know of Procter & Gamble, just the most incredible business mind and person that you can imagine over at Procter & Gamble. And I soft pitched him the idea about 2 months after George and I first talked about it. And Mark Pritchard said, when the time is right, because at that point we hadn't even closed our deal with Michelle, he said, when the time is right, I want to hear more because this is the kind of show that I want to be behind. And years later, Kimberly Dobereiner and Anna Selfeld, who are both executive producers on the Procter & Gamble side, came and we all put our heads together about how we could make the most effective partnership possible. And I'm so proud to say that it's just been a partnership beyond compare. It has been amazing in every sense, and it's just been terrific. So there's a lot of players that are involved in this, including the NAACP, obviously, with this being a venture. It's co-branded with the NAACP. And people have just come in and embraced this in a way that I would have never expected. And I also want to just throw out 2 more people who are really important in us really being able to launch this, and that is the head of CBS Studios, David Staff.
Love David.
David is amazing. He's back in Los Angeles, but he as well truly embraced this. When my first day on the job, I called George and I said, "What about that soap?" And he said, "Call David Staff. staff at David staff said, we're going to put it in business affairs, and that's exactly what happened. And Amy Reisenbach, the president of CBS Network, who is a huge lover of all things soap, and she read the Bible that Michelle wrote. The Bible is incredible. I don't know if we're going to put it in the Smithsonian one day. I hope so. We are literally, the Bible is exactly, I'd say, probably 95, 96, 97% what she wrote back in August of 2021, which is incredible to believe, but it is that good. And Amy Reisenbach, a big lover of soap, when she read the Bible, she just thought, this is amazing. And so all the people at the top of CBS have really put their arms around this project. And as you can see, it's everywhere. And it's everywhere because on the inside, everyone has pushed it forward.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I sort of feel like at some point there's going to be, there will be a history told of this history, and it'll be fascinating for people in this space and in the world of entertainment. Let me ask you, Tamara and Daphne, what it's like to come onto a set where the cast, I know it's diverse, I know there's a lot of different ethnicities and races on the show, but in a predominantly black cast, what that feels like, having both of you having worked for so long in this space, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna add that. I'm so glad you said that, because behind the camera as well is a predominantly black community making this incredible story.
Yes.
And you know, for so many years on As the World Turns, I would be the only black contract player, you know, and then as far as crew was concerned, there were no black crew members at all when I was doing soap opera, you know. So it's an incredible feeling to walk into a space where the majority of the people are black artists working at the top of their game, you know, and it's comforting, and it's like coming home, and it's like you already know the terms of the game, you already know the language that everyone is speaking, you know. I mean, it's a shorthand, you pop right into it, and it's just incredibly comfortable.
Right.
It's incredibly comfortable, and also you don't feel the responsibility of being the only black voice at the table, you know, and that's so important. Because black voices are not a monolith. There are many ways of thinking in the black community, of way of acting in the black community, of experiences in the black community, you know. And so to have more than one voice in the space it just makes it deeper and richer and more authentic and beautiful. And so I'm happy every single day that I show up at Assembly Studios, every single day.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
For me, there's so much pride when I walk into that building, and joy to walk in. The happiness is palpable, right? Like everybody feels exactly the same way. Everybody is pushing for us. They have this excitement that I have not felt on any set that I've ever been on before. And then to walk into the hair and makeup room, you know, for African American actors, especially women, the boys get touched up with a little bit of powder, right?
But they have a barber.
Yeah.
We have a barber, exactly.
Wow.
We have a
for the men.
barber.
Yes, for the men.
I've never been on a show that had a barber.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's incredible. Continue.
Yeah,
I'm sorry
but
to
you know,
interrupt.
hair for me is a big for all African American women, and I'd always have to bring my own stuff, and I'd let the departments do what they do, and then I'd go sneak into my trailer and I'd go fix it, because we know what we can look like if it's not done right. But yeah, it's fascinating to walk into this building and just the smiles, and we're working 12, 14-hour days, and those smiles are on those faces at the end of the day. They're there at 4:30 in the morning when our key hairstylist shows up. Head wardrobe. 3-time Emmy Award winner already.
Yes.
She's going to get a 4th. To literally 8:30, 9 o'clock when we leave, they're still smiling, and there's joy, and there's happiness, and they're dancing, and that is amazing.
Yes, it's true.
Well, what else is amazing is and you touched upon it, the amount of work that goes into crafting these episodes. I've read where you try to shoot 100 script pages a day, which is almost like, I dabbled in screenwriting in my younger years, and I remember my professor back then saying to me, one page is 1 minute of screen time, right? So you're almost talking about an entire film that you shoot every single day. So just for the mechanics, so people understand, how do you guys memorize those lines? Like, how do you, just explain the mechanics of what goes into.
Well, first, let me just say, we're not individually memorizing 100 pages. Let's just clarify that. Yes, it is divvied up amongst the cast.
It is a lot of work, and I was just telling one of our younger characters, I was just giving him some tricks. I was like, don't look, because he's like, it's so much, it's so much. I'm like, you have to take, we get like 5, now 7, at a point where we're getting like 15 at one time. We're like, whoa, way too many. And they scaled it back for us a little bit. But I'm like, take that 2 weeks, take all your scenes out, and just read them every day for like 30 minutes. And then as you get closer to that episode that you're shooting, then you hone in, then you go in hard. That way it's, familiar. It's not, especially there are scenes where we have chunks of dialogue. And that can definitely be scary to look at the day or two before. But when you take that time, your intention, you get on that set, and it's just deep, right? And you're gonna see that as the show gets, goes along the way. Because Julie Carruthers, our other executive producer, she said to me, she goes, if you think that's good, wait a few weeks where you guys have settled in to your characters, to each other. That's week 1. We didn't know each other, right? And that comes off so beautifully. Right. So now imagine when we really love each other because we know each other and we respect each other. We respected each other's works, but we didn't know each other. Right. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Tamara, what's it like then? So people who will have remembered you from Law and Order, and what is the? You get a little shout out for
SVU.
SVU. Sure.
Right. For those of you who were up late last night.
What can you just explain the contrast between working in soaps and working on a show like SVU?
Yes, well, as we were alluding to, the speed in which we shoot a daytime drama is something that most actors will never experience in their careers unless they do a daytime drama. As we were saying earlier, you're doing a new episode every single day, 5 days a week. And, with a television show, you have the course of 9 days to shoot an episode. With a film, you have maybe a few months to shoot the film, you know what I mean? So it's the fastest turnover possible, and it's a beast. And when I was on As the World Turns, I would watch actors come from other mediums to do a stint on the soap and crash and burn because they just couldn't do it. Because it is a real muscle. It is a real muscle, and it's a muscle that you have to build if you haven't experienced it before. And so when you're talking about memorization, memory is a muscle, and that's something that you can continue to grow and expand on and hone, and the other thing about, we get the scripts, but the scripts are changing.
Yeah, that.
And so I actually requested, I said, you can't send them out this early when they're constantly still changing. So can we get them a little closer to when we're going to shoot them when they're not changing so much? And so we did, so we scaled it back because we were getting the scripts when the entire production company and heads of departments were getting the scripts, and they need to have them that early so they know, who needs to wear what and what needs to be on the coffee table in the living room, et cetera, et cetera. But the actors, we don't need to know that early. Right. And even up until the night before we're shooting it, we're getting changes. This line has been cut or this has been inserted. You know what I mean? So it's an incredible experience. And and this is what I always, and any actor who has really done well in daytime and has gone on to do film or primetime television, they will acknowledge, they will own, and I use Julianne Moore as an example, because she constantly says, my training on As the World Turns is the foundation of my career and what I've done. So it's an extraordinary opportunity, you know, and it's the hardest work, and it's the closest to like theater that I think you'll do. And it's interesting because I also call it the closest to a corporate job an actor will ever have, you know, because you're shooting 5 days a week, you have your weekends off, you have your holidays off, you get a vacation, you know what I mean?
It's like a 9 to 5.
It's
but
kind of like a 9 to 5, but it's like 6 to 8.
Right.
But it's all inside. So we don't have to worry about, you know, it raining at 3 in the morning
yes,
over by
thank
the
God.
bridge. You know, 99% of everything we shoot is right on these
You have
stages.
to wait for the sun.
That's
Right.
it.
Yes, exactly.
Or the plane. Our very first day of shooting,
we
actually.
do have planes.
Yes,
Sick.
October 31st.
Yes.
We did a couple of exteriors, and sure enough, our director, Stephen Williford, he was like, I swear to God, I swear that I sat here and I paid attention to how many planes went by. That day, it was every 7 minutes. We're like, what's going on in Atlanta on a Friday night? Because everybody's coming in.
When it wasn't the plane, because there's a landing, there's a little tiny
small
municipal
airport,
airport.
private airport, yeah.
Right, just really right a stone's throw away from the studio. But then there's also the metro train. So when the planes weren't coming, then the train was coming. So we could not win that day. But we still got some good stuff.
We got it. We got it.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Can I talk about, let's talk about the characters themselves before we jump back into what this show overall means to the people who will be watching it. You kept saying the matriarch. Tamara, what? Because when you said to her, "You got an EGOT," I was like, "Okay, now I want to know all about how Anita has an EGOT, right?"
Yes,
So,
yes.
in your mind, there are things you know about this character that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Just give a little sense.
There's so much to be revealed.
Yes.
Anita's back.
She's from the projects.
Yes,
right.
she grew up in the projects in Chicago.
Right.
And she used her talents to lift her out of the projects. She's a singer. And she and her girlfriends used to sing in the bathroom in high school, you know, and harmonize. And they performed at a talent show. And an agent spotted them and actually launched their careers. And so she was with a very successful girl group called the Articulettes.
Who came up with that name, Sheila?
Michelle.
No, it's a real group. Michelle used to actually sing in a group called the Articulate.
Somebody back there was like, "Yep."
So yes, it's real.
Yes.
Great.
That was real.
So Michelle definitely pulls from her own experience. And so she was with the Articulettes, and then at a certain point, she left the Articulettes to pursue a solo career as a jazz artist. So she shifted from pop R&B into jazz, and she had a very successful run there. And at that time was when she met Vernon Dupree at a rally in Washington, D.C., and they fell in love and married and then started a family. And so she chose to put her career on the side and support his political aspirations and raise their 2 daughters. And she, you know, and she was an actor as well. So she was a singer, she was an actor, so she won some awards. And, you know, some awards. And so when we begin our story, you know, where this show starts, you know, it's a very happy time in Anita's life. She loves her family, you know, she loves her daughters, her grandchildren.
Her husband.
My husband, of
They're
course,
still,
B.
but they're
Clifton
still,
Davis.
it is relationship goals, yes.
Yes.
Like
Yes,
you see
yes.
this family that's been together for so long and they fight and they love for each other so hard and it's so beautiful. Like when I'm not working, I'll go and watch them because they're so good together.
Thank you.
Yeah, well.
But yes, so though things are rosy for Anita, she has a secret. She has a dark secret that she is carrying with her, and it starts to bubble up. It starts to bubble up. It starts to percolate. It starts to nudge and come to the surface.
Love the
and-
audience.
Yes, and you know, and she's being haunted a little bit by something, and we don't know what it is, but We'll find out. And it's good.
Yeah.
It's really good, y'all.
It's really good. I'm 6 months ahead, and so there are things that I know about the character.
That I don't even know yet. Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Well, so Daphne, your character, same thing. When you come onto the scene, you're so confident. You seem to have it all together when you're lecturing Dani about her life, her love life. You're a psychiatrist. Tell me more.
I mean, I'm definitely seemingly perfect, but because it is a soap opera, the roller coaster ride will also, join my family. But for the most part, she is. We call ourselves like the calm in the storm, right? Everything that happens around us is, crazy, and we try to calm it all down. We wrangle it all in. My sister's like my baby, right? And you see the bickering, because that's what sisters do or siblings do. But to the core of who we are, we love each other. I'm there to protect her, and the rest of the family. But yeah, you're in a few months down the line, you're gonna see some crazy stuff happening in my world.
Definitely.
And
I'll say this too, that mark your calendars, because I know that you all will be watching every day, right? Monday through Friday? Okay. So when we get towards the end of April, wait until you see.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say. There's stuff happening all the time, but wait until we get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a tease. That's what we call a tease.
Yeah. I was like, we were all watching this on the feed or down in the control room, and our stomachs were churning, like literally. It's a big one.
Wow. Okay. So Sheila, we talked about this earlier, and I want to hit upon the theme of Black excellence and why you wanted to highlight and showcase for America and the world Black excellence in the form of these characters, in the form of this setting. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so the setting is actually rooted in reality. What you see at Fairmont Crest could be any gated community in suburban Maryland. One of the things that people might know but might not know is that truly the DMV area, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, is rich in Black history and rich in Black dollars, I will say. So if you look up, if you were to Google the top, the most affluent African American communities in America, 5 of the 10 would be suburban Maryland. So if you go to suburban Maryland, you would find some of these gated communities that are predominantly Black, that folks are living in 10,000 square foot mansions and large acreage on golf courses with country clubs. And that actually is fact for that area. So a lot of people, even within this country, probably don't know that, depending on how familiar you may be with the DMV area or Maryland. But I wanted to put a spotlight on that because it's a slice of life in, I think, culturally important, societally important. I wanted to put a spotlight on it because it exists and show that. And show also, as Tamara and as Daphne has said, that there's a lot of versatility, there's a lot of diversity, there's a lot of inclusion that we wanted to put in this project as well. So basically, we wanted to, show this one big sprawling family that in a way is kind of like, I'm gonna say the Kennedys, but it really is Black royalty. They are the leaders of life in Maryland. They're living in this gated community that's the crown jewel of gated communities in all of Maryland, and everything, the power, the prestige, the privilege all emanates from there. But there's also gonna be lots of stuff that we're gonna see that's soap opera specific, that's gonna be, the lies and the secrets that come with money and power and privilege. And we just wanted to show that in a way that we've never seen it before on TV, that we've seen other stories and other lives depicted in that manner, but we wanted to show something that was what we felt was really close to reality. So we're gonna see that through the Duprees and at Fairmont Crest.
I love that. Because I think that one of the things that, I think for some of us, we'll watch this and we'll say, well, of course, we know that exists and we know that that's a reality. And there will be some people who will say, is this some kind of a fantasy that they've imagined themselves in these roles when the reality is absolutely not? This is real life. So that sort of leads me to my question, and I want this for all three of you to talk about just your upbringings and how you. It must be remarkable to have been a young person watching soap operas, Sheila, and to dream about what it's like to perhaps work on one, and to now be responsible for this monumental, groundbreaking show that is about to launch. Like, just give me a little sense of who you were as I know your parents are in the audience.
They are. They're in the back right there.
Like, I always want to believe, because it was true of me, that, you know, all the things that I'm interested in started first with my parents. And it may have been inadvertent. My dad may have put a John Coltrane album on and said, don't listen to that, but then you go, wait, I kind of want to hear that, right? And so you go down this path. So talk to me about your path.
Well, really briefly, you know, I'm actually a native New Yorker. I'm from Queens, so I grew up in Queens. But grew up half in Queens, half in New Jersey. My parents came in from New Jersey. And we kind of, in moving to New Jersey, it was kind of like a little Peyton Place kind of a town, a small, sleepy town where small black population, all the black people knew each other. And it was one of those things that it's more family than friends. Another thing that actually they don't even know, because I haven't showed it to them yet, but when I went down to Maryland over the summer and I was looking at what is, you know, in a country club in Maryland that I wanted to bring to this country club, there's a wall of presidents. So if any of you belong to country clubs, you would see that there's like a wall of, you know, all these presidents, and I saw them in several of the country clubs. So we made a wall of presidents, and I put all the people in our village of the town that we're from, on the wall of presidents. So, so my dad will have to take a closer look at that, because when he watched the episode, he did not call it out. So it's there. But yeah, there is, you know, there's a lot of reality, I would say, that is similar to what we see in Fairmont Crest that, you know, kind of feels familiar to me. And that's kind of the thing that motivates me just in, you know, the projects that I take on and what I do, and this one specifically too, is that I like to kind of augment what's real, kind of take what's real and take it to a heightened state, and that's certainly what we did here.
Love that. Tamara, when did you get bit by the acting bug? Like, I mean, you've been acting, I know you acted in college, right? At Carnegie Mellon?
I attended Carnegie Mellon University. But I would say, you know, from the womb.
Really?
I think, you know, I mean, because my mother would, you know, she shares stories when I was 3 and how, you know, I would do the pony dance, you know. I would do the pony for her best friend who would always clap when I would do the pony, you know. So I guess I was bitten then, you know, but you know,
you were drawn to that.
I was all drawn to the applause. The applause.
That's right, the applause.
But you know, from grade school on, I performed in plays and I sang in the choir in school. I sang in the choir in my church, you know. But I was a math and science kid, you know, and I love math and science. And so I was, from the time I was maybe 12 until my senior year of high school, I thought I would go to school to study medicine and be a doctor of some sort, you know. But I didn't do that, because my junior year in the spring concert, I performed my first solo, and the applause. And so I thought, you know, but it just brought people joy, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh wow, this is interesting that people can be moved by something that I do and something that I share. So cut to my senior year, my choir director was a graduate of Carnegie Mellon's School of Music. And he suggested that I, you know, if I'm interested, to take a look at CMU. So I got their catalog, you know, and I began to look, and I turned to the actually to the engineering program because I was like, maybe I'll do that. But then I turned to the drama school section and acting. I was like, yes, because this is what I love to do. But the audition required some things that I just wasn't confident about or even knew what they were. One of them was do a mime. And the only mime I knew was like Shields and Yarnell, the pantomime. And I was like, well, don't you need a partner to do that? I was like, I don't understand. But I turned the page and it was the musical theater option that was just a year old at the school. And it said, to sing a song, do a dance. And I had taken dance classes as a kid and do a monologue, And so I thought, well, I can handle that, So I drove my parents' station wagon. Well, it was a hearse, really, because I grew up in a funeral home. And I drove down to CMU, which was actually 15 minutes from my home. And I did not know this school existed until my choir director, a white man, Dr. Caruso, said, this is an opportunity. And that's how important that is. Opportunity.
Yes.
And somebody showing you there's an opportunity. So I went down and I auditioned and I choreographed my dance and I did my monologue and I sang my song and I got back in my parents' car and drove home and waited. And a month later, I received a letter that I was accepted into the musical theater program at CMU. And it was wonderful because I didn't know until I got there for that audition that there were such things as performing arts high schools where kids have been studying this stuff for a while, And so I was naive about the competitive nature of auditioning for a drama school, which was probably good because I probably would not have gone had I known, And so I did 4 years at CMU musical theater program, graduated with my BFA, packed up my car and drove to New York and never looked back.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great story.
Yeah.
Daphne, your story, I was so excited to meet you because you're Haitian American, I'm Haitian American. There are not that many of us in high profile roles. There are some, and my mom always jokes, there was one on the Titanic. And I don't know, she's always like, we're everywhere. It's a true story. But it must have been also hard for you because if your parents are like mine, we're first generation Americans. I mean, every first generation American child will have this version of the story where a parent says you have to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, and the only fourth option is failure. I was like, Mom, I want to be a writer. That's a nice hobby. And I'm like, I want to do it for a living. So talk to me about your path to being an actor.
You know what? I had a mother who essentially lived paycheck to paycheck, but she never killed my dream. In fact, she scraped up her pennies. And I remember saying I wanted to go to modeling school, and we were living in Miami at the time, and she scraped up her pennies every Sunday so that I can go take a class down in Coral Gables at John Casablanca. Do you remember John Casablanca? And I was 15 years old, and I would take that jitney. Do you know the Miami jitney?
Yes.
You have to live in Miami, but it's a homemade bus. I would take that dollar jitney all the way down, and it started there for me. But again, my mother never said no. I can't say we had the best relationship, as I was growing up, but as I've gotten older, I realized, and I heard somebody say, if you're going to blame them for the bad, you also have to blame them for the good, right? And I'm like, I am who I am because of her. And I realized back then I didn't realize she was pushing for me, but now I'm like, I'm here because of her, and I hope she's proud.
All right, we've got some questions that came in from the audience, and so these are questions that were submitted in advance. And let's go through them because I think they're really interesting. So let's go with this one. Is your hope, I think this is for you, Sheila, is your hope that Beyond the Gates will help revive the soap opera genre? And if so, what other kind of soap operas would you like to see?
Wow. So to answer the first question directly, yes, I would love to see more soaps out. Truly, the soap operas are here to stay. They've been around for 100 years, whether on radio or whether on daytime or whether on primetime or now streaming, people just binging. There's something in the DNA of storytelling where you have, the cliffhangers and the unpredictable moments and all of those things. And I think it was a really great thing when we had variety in soaps, where you could watch all the different stories for the afternoon. I love the fact now that CBS now has a soap opera block with the 3 soaps all in a row. And I think with success, there will be more. And to go beyond that, my dream, though, is that with more, that we see more of what we're doing on this show with Beyond the Gates, where it's more inclusive, it's more, just open to all different kinds of people who want to just take it in and feel like, I know that person or I am that person, just so that there's more relatability that there has been in soaps traditionally. So I do think that it will change things and change the game in daytime. But I'll even say, beyond changing, I think, the DNA of some of these soaps, of what we've seen, where we'd have 40 characters and maybe 3 or 4 diverse, I'd love to see more of that. But I'll also say that I think that it will change the game in television, period. Because I think when people see what we've done and how we're able to shoot and the quality that we've put forth, I do think that that's going to go even beyond daytime. Storytelling is storytelling, and I think that people, whether they're soap opera fans or soap opera watchers, I think we're going to bring those in, but also people who just like good storytelling. And so I expect that to spread far beyond just the series that we're putting forth today.
Love that. This is a fun question. Tamara and Daphne, between being on Beyond the Gates and your previous soaps, what's the craziest line of dialogue you've ever had to say?
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to toss it to you because you were on that crazy show.
I was on that crazy show. Well, I can't remember a line because let me tell you, once I memorize it and shoot it, it's gone, right? To memorize the next. But when I was on Passions, and I believe we had a couple Passions lovers in here, my character all of a sudden, out of nowhere, takes off her face, and she is a chocolate black boy. And that is how the show ended. That character killed everybody.
Oh my God. People were nodding like, yeah, that's how it ended. Wow.
I can't top that.
Every time I would get those scripts, I'm like, seriously? More of that? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, who's, let's talk to the writers, please.
Here's another good one, I think. How has, and feel free, somebody to jump on this one, how has the representation of black women on soap operas evolved through the decades? Who wants to take that?
That's a good question. I think we have the opportunity here because, like I said, on As the World Turns, when I was the only one, she had to be good, and she was good. She never veered away from being good, But now with multiple characters, you have the opportunity for an African-American woman to be the villain, you know what I mean? And I think that's fun and juicy and the kind of roles that we all like, why do we always have to be the good, or historically being the best friend. And it's like now we're no longer the best friend, we're the one.
Right.
So that has changed. That has changed a bit.
Are there any real-life celebs or political figures, given the show's DC area location, that you would like to appear as themselves on the show?
She has a wish list.
She does? You do?
Yeah. Again, with the theme of reality, we want to bring in people where it feels like you are in Maryland and you are at this crown jewel of country clubs and this austere environment. You probably saw from that the very last scene, the woman at the bar was the grande dame, Karen Huger.
Yes.
And we wanted Karen. I really wanted her because of what she symbolizes. I do like the Real Housewives of the Potomac, I will admit. And it was just fitting to have her in this show to symbolize all what we're trying to put forth. So, we're really looking to make use of the folks that either have connections to Maryland or live in Maryland now or in the DMV area, just to bring home more of the realistic part of the show.
Okay. Before we wrap, this has been an incredible hour. Thank you all for being a part of it. Thank you. Sheila, would love for all three of you, just briefly, if you could, just for the audience to understand something. If there's anybody out there who's watching this or who's live streaming this, and they are thinking about pursuing their dreams, whatever those dreams may be, when you think to yourself that a soap opera centered on a wealthy Black family, that's never going to happen. I want somebody to hear your voices about what the possibilities are if you just pursue them.
Yeah, I'll very briefly, I will just say that yes, definitely hold on to your dreams, because it may not be, if you're waiting for it to come forth, that it's not going to happen. It just means that you haven't spoken to the right person maybe who can actually help facilitate that dream for you. And I would just say that, just be specific about it. I have to say I was very specific about this idea, but even beyond the kind of the creative of the idea, I was very specific about it being an hour. I was very specific about it being...
Ryan's like, yes, she was.
Yes, I was very specific that we did not repeat. I was very specific that I didn't want us to take time off. There were things that I wanted this to be like the soap that I always wanted when I was 10 years old. And it just goes to show that dreams don't die. Put some specificity in it and hold on fast.
Yes. Yeah, I would just add to that. I recently, last week, I'm a trustee of Carnegie Mellon University now, which is a privilege and an incredible position to be in. And so I was invited to participate in the presidential lecture series that the president holds, where he talks to different people who are, successful in their careers, to talk about their careers and share. And so it starts with a speech or presentation, 20 minutes or so, and then we sit down and have a conversation. And I would say the summation of what I shared with the people who gathered that day was that, when one door closes, another one truly opens. And this is the perfect example of that, because I had a massive disappointment last year where I worked on a project that was moving, and I was kicked to the curb. And it broke my heart, because I helped to create this project. I mean, I really put all my blood, sweat, tears, humanity into the character that I played. And it broke my heart. It really broke my heart. But 2 months later, I got the phone call from these women. And if I had been a part of that, I would not be sitting here today talking to you about this. So I share that with people, whatever field you're in. And I have the 3 P's that I live by, and they are preparation, persistence, and perseverance. That will get you to the finish line.
Love that. Yes. And Daphne.
For me, my advice is never give up. We work in an industry where you're only as good as your last job, and you don't ever know when the next job is around the corner. Keep those chops, take the acting classes, do theater, one person plays. Just keep it up, keep that energy going, because it's so easy to I haven't worked, I haven't booked anything, I'm waiting tables, because that's what we do. But don't give up, because if you really truly believe that that's where you belong, your time is going to come.
Yeah.
And work breeds work. I mean, and you can't just sit back and wait for it to come. You got to go to it. You got to meet it. Right? You got to meet the opportunity. Opportunity knocks, but you have to open the door. 100%. And so you can't sit back and just wait for it to come. You have to put energy. Like I said, I was a math science kid, and I believe in physics. And the laws of physics is energy creates energy.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So you have to put energy into whatever you want to receive.
Yes.
On that note, Daphnee Duplaix, Tamara Tunie, Sheila Ducksworth, thank you very much. Thank you. all of you for coming out. Thank you for coming.